Hi there, I'm going to show you in this webinar how to get the most out of your strategic analysis for examination subject review. We're going to go through some of the main indicators. It might be worthwhile having a look at the PowerPoint, which is getting the most out of your PDF report, where I've set out a lot of the definitions of what the indicators are and what they mean and how to interpret them. What I'm going to do in this webinar is basically just show you where they are and how you can filter them and make comparisons against them. So what I've got in this webinar is I've got a set of 4-year exam trends. Now you'll have to forgive me because I'm recording this before results day 2018-19, so I'm a year behind you, but the principles are the same. So we're going to go into strategic analysis. So this is where your whole school indicators are, and you're going to get a range of them, which together give you a feel of how progress is looking across the whole school. Now you'll see you've got 3 options here. Saved reports, obviously, if you've previously been in here and constructed one. So we're going to start with the template today. Building a custom report is going to pull out some independent pages, which we can deal with in a moment. So I'm starting with a template and I'm going to build an A-level one. Now I've got an option here. I can either select a main provider report, which effectively gives you very similar strategic pages to the ones in your PDF report. If you just want to pull out the pages that we think are suitable to share with your governing body or a regulatory body, then take that report. And then there are some filters. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add filters to the main provider report. I think that's a little bit more flexible. So I've selected that. Now what's come up is a comparison group option. So if I press edit there, you can see that I've got some categories that I can now add comparison groups to all of my strategic pages. I'm going to choose gender simply because I've got the 2 options there. But basically the ethnicity, the gender and the disadvantaged are standard built into Connect. If you want to have any other custom comparison groups, then that is absolutely possible for you to add. So your data administrator will need to add those as they're adding your cohort data. And that's all in the checklists. So if you're using the digital guide, I've put links in there for you to make sure that you know how to do that. So at the moment I'm going to just choose gender. So I'm going to put male, female on this report and create it. And then I'm going to get a series of pages that come out across the top here. Now I can save that, I can print it, or I can share it, so I can email it out to people within my school. We're going to talk through some of this now. So the first page that comes up is the strategic overview. There's some cohort details in the top boxes. And then you've got your indicators, and you've got a 4-year trend on your indicators. So the main one there, the quality indicator score, is, remember, the score that you get taking into account all examination entries. So in effect, it's what did they actually get versus what were your students expected to get. So it's an average progress score. Grade 4 is top 40%. It's just been on a slight decline, this quality indicator. So what I would do is I would look at my subjects individually, which we will do in a moment, to find out why that might have just dipped outside of the top 25%. Then I'm going to look at my red teaching and my blue teaching. Again, there's a slight dip in the red teaching. 24% of my entries are in red subjects, and that's compared look in previous years to a lot higher than that, so it's effectively halved since last year. So again, we need to look at the subject overview in order to understand why that is the case. The blue teaching and learning score has actually gone up. So the good news is there are less entries in blue subject areas. So I'm getting rid of the blues, but I've lost a few reds along the way. And then overall then my T-score, which is the average of this 4 and 2 and 3, 4 and 2 and 5, has come out at a grade 3. So I'm still in top 25% progress for that T-score. My 3-year T-score is an average of those 9 indicators. So the red, the blue and the QI over those last 3 years. So that's still looking strong. And my A-levels on target, so that's the number of students, or sorry, the percentage of student entries who hit their MEGs, is top 25%. So 3/4 of my students are hitting their MEGs. So that's my strategic overview. Now, you'll remember that I put a filter on there. So my next 2 bars are male and female. Now, I'm going to view those together because I want to do a comparison. So can you see that little arrow just moving there? I'm going to link those 2 together, and so hopefully they're both going to come up, male and female. And what that's giving you is a breakdown for all those indicators between those 2 comparison groups. And hopefully you can see that the female side is a little bit redder than this male side, which means that I've got an issue with the progress of some or more of my boys than I do in my girls. So again, we're going to look at that in the subject overview in just a moment. So already within a few minutes, I've got an idea of something's not quite right with the progress of my boys. So the next page is your current grade. So that's for this examination year. This is your banded by ability table. Now the key column that you want to look at here is this UCAS points per subject. So what this is showing you is that for each of your prior attainment groups, these are the actual grades that they got. Red means that they are on or above their MEG, and the blue numbers indicate where they've slipped below MEG. So what you don't want is you don't want big numbers in the blue. So what I've got here is I've got a great big 19 where this second prior attainment band down is getting a B instead of an A, and again down here, so they're not hitting the C grade down here. So already in my head now I'm thinking the BC boundary is not a strong one, and the AB boundary again not that strong in terms of progress. And look, that's mirrored by those grade 7s there in the top bands, and then you've got a slight dip down here of grade 5. Now if you want to see that as a trend, then we need the banded by ability overall table. Now remember, we're looking at points per subject. So that's the trend. So remember those 2 top bands not doing so well in last summer's examination outcome? That has been a 2-year trend. So basically that's telling me that I need to do something about stretching my most able because they're not getting those A stars and A's, and obviously that's having a knock-on effect on their university application process. So if I want to see again, let's have a look at those boys because they were not making the progress overall. So male and female, middle table. So the boys, actually the top boys are doing better than the top girls. So it's not my top boys that are bringing the overall indicators down. So where are those boys struggling? Here, there are 19 boys here that are struggling, and those girls are doing fine in that middle region. So we're starting to sort of narrow down where those key boys are struggling in their subjects. Okay, so remember those were the grades at the BC boundary. So my boys are not getting that grade. Okay, so let's have a look at the subjects then. So the subject value added overview is here. And for the first time then I can see potentially why my red teaching and learning score has taken a dip. So I'm looking at this and looking at where the trend is. So psychology and sociology and history are 3 big entry subjects, and they've all just slipped out of the red this year. Okay, so that's quite a lot of entries, my big hitters, as we'd call them, that are actually not now red, that were red. So those are 3 subjects, particularly history. Look, it's taken quite a big drop. So those are 3 subjects that you might want to focus on regaining that strength, regaining that red, to push up your red teaching and learning. Meanwhile, my blue entries, remember, went right down, and in fact actually only geography has a blue outcome, 5 students. So focusing in on subject intervention in geography might be absolutely key this year if you've got students doing geography, to get rid of that last remaining blue. Don't forget though to look at your 6s. So there's a few grade 6s creeping in there. Big hitter there, maths, big hitter biology. You do not want those to move down into the blue, so retaining that black and pushing towards the red is what you want for those subjects. And then, you know, you've got those 4s. There's a couple of 4s there that you might want to just push back into that red zone that we've talked about. So let's look at that broken down by gender. So those are my 2 subjects. So I'm looking for individual progress of the boys being slightly below the girls. So their psychology, look, is a gap between girls and boys in psychology and sociology. Those trends, those same subjects are coming back and making that boy overall quality indicator drop. So history is lower and maths is lower. So you've got quite a number of subjects there where the boys are just not doing as well as the girls. Economics, another big one there. The girls, grade 1, which is equivalent to the top provider in the data set, whereas the boys there are a lot of boys and they're quite a bit lower. So hopefully between those different pages you're starting to get a feel for what your main issues are. And then it's how you address them, which is what you take forward, obviously, with your subject leaders through subject review. There are other pages in the strategic overview, mostly individual scores. So, for example, similar pages to the PDF, where you've got your more detail on your T-score there, for example. And obviously, they have a use, but I think the pages that I've shown you are probably the first ones to focus on. So if I pop back home, then it will automatically prompt me if I want to save it. So if I save it in there, then once I come back to my strategic area, I now should have that. There we go. That's what I've just created there. Just a quick word on building a custom report. If you want a quick custom report built and you plump for A level there, you can see that you get an individual choice of pages. So you may not want all of those pages. You may just want to pull specific pages out. And you can do that one at a time. So you can select a page